Karoline Leavitt obliterates Whoopi Goldberg on The View. Live audience in complete shock. Before even stepping inside the studio, I could sense the controlled chaos. The low hum of producers murmuring into headsets, assistants shuffling papers, and the quiet chatter of the live audience settling in. This wasn't just any talk show. This was The View, one of the most watched debate tables in the country. And I was about to step right into the fire. I had been warned over and over again. "Karoline, they're setting you up," my team cautioned. "This isn't an invite for discussion, it's an ambush." But I wasn't worried. The moment I entered the green room, I could feel the weight of expectation pressing down. The game was clear. They assumed I wasn't ready to play it. Adjusting the mic clip to my blazer, I took a measured sip of water, steadying myself. I had seen this setup before. Conservative guests lured into hostile debates, cut off mid-thought, ridiculed under the illusion of discussion. I knew exactly what they wanted. A reaction, a stumble, a single moment of frustration they could latch onto and twist into a headline. But I wasn't here to play defense. Across the studio floor, Whoopi Goldberg, seasoned host, master of debate, and self-appointed gatekeeper of acceptable discourse, sat flipping through her notes, barely glancing at them. She didn't need to. She knew the rhythm, the formula. Win the audience early, take control of the narrative, and shut down any viewpoint that didn't align with hers. It had worked for years, and she was sure it would work again today. A few feet away, her co-hosts, Marcus Hill and Daniel Carter, exchanged light banter, their relaxed voices oozing confidence. To them, this was routine. Another guest to dismantle. Another win to tally. Judging by their laughter, it hadn't even crossed their minds that today might not go as planned. Then the countdown began. 10 seconds. Studio lights dimmed. Intro music played. Cameras rolled. And just like that, the game was on. The moment my name was introduced, I felt the shift. Subtle, but there. The audience had been prepped for a takedown, expecting a conservative guest to walk straight into a trap. I took a slow, steady breath and stepped onto the stage, keeping my posture relaxed. Across from me, Whoopi leaned in ever so slightly, her expression calm but her intent crystal clear. She was setting the tone, establishing control before I even reached my seat. Her first words? A greeting, followed immediately by, "Let's be honest, Karoline," she said smoothly. "Conservative media has been spreading a lot of misinformation. How do you defend that?" A classic move. Broad accusation. Immediate pressure. The audience reacted on cue, a wave of applause, murmurs of agreement. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Marcus smirking slightly, Daniel leaning back as if he already knew exactly how this conversation would unfold. They expected me to scramble, to push back too fast, to sound defensive. Instead, I tilted my head just slightly and let the silence settle a second longer than was comfortable. Then I smiled. "I think the bigger question is," I said, my voice calm and deliberate, "who gets to decide what's misinformation?" The studio shifted. Not visibly, not dramatically, but in ways that mattered. A few audience members hesitated mid-clap. Co-hosts exchanged quick glances. The rhythm, the script they were expecting, had just been disrupted. Whoopi didn't react immediately.
She was too experienced for that.
But I caught it, the slight twitch of her fingers against the table, the recalculation in her eyes. This was supposed to be easy. I wasn't supposed to turn it back on her. "Oh, come on," she scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "We fact-check everything on this show. We don't spread misinformation." I let her words sit there, studying her for just a beat longer than necessary. Then, with a lightness just sharp enough to carry across the room, I responded. "Really?" The flicker of unease in Whoopi's face was brief, almost imperceptible, but I caught it. She wasn't used to this. Losing control this early. Normally, by now, the guest would be struggling, justifying, backpedaling, fighting to stay afloat against the weight of the audience, the co-hosts, and the format itself. But I wasn't struggling. I was waiting. Whoopi reset, rolling her shoulders back, forcing out a dry chuckle. "Oh, Karoline," she said, voice dripping with condescension. "We're not doing this game today." "Game?" I arched a brow. Interesting choice of words. What game is that? She ignored the question, her tone sharpening. Let's not pretend conservative media hasn't spent years flooding this country with lies, paranoia, and outright propaganda. The damage your side has done? It's immeasurable. A well-played move. The audience reacted on cue. Applause. Murmured agreement. She was pushing past the discomfort, trying to drown it out under another wave of validation. Marcus and Daniel seized the moment. She's right, Marcus chimed in, shaking his head. The studies, the data, it's staggering. You can't just ignore that. Daniel leaned back, smirking. The real question is, when will conservatives take responsibility for the harm they've caused? The double-team strategy. Designed to overwhelm. To force me into defense mode. I could have jumped in. Fired back with statistics. Countered with examples of misinformation from their side. Exposed their hypocrisy. But I didn't. I let them talk. I let Whoopi sit there, growing more confident, believing she had regained control. Then, when the last word left Daniel's mouth, I leaned forward, just slightly. Just enough to shift the energy again. Tell me something, I said, my voice light, almost thoughtful. Why is it that every time someone questions the mainstream narrative, the response isn't a discussion, it's a label? The studio quieted. Not completely. Not yet. But something had shifted. Whoopi's smirk flickered. What do you mean by that? She asked. I let my gaze sweep the table, as if carefully considering my next words. Then I met her eyes.
I mean this, I said.
You don't debate. You dismiss. You don't engage, you label. The second someone challenges your perspective, they're called dangerous, ignorant, a conspiracy theorist. Why is that? Silence. Real silence. Whoopi's fingers tapped against the table, her subconscious tell. Marcus and Daniel exchanged glances, unsure whether to jump in or let her handle it. And the audience? They were listening now. And that was the problem. Whoopi exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Oh, come on, Karoline. That's nonsense. No one is silencing conservatives. I smiled. Really? One word.
Sharp. Precise.
Aimed straight at the core of the argument. And Whoopi. For the first time, she had nothing to say. And she knew it.